Tammy, can you hear me?
Hey, Katie, I'm here. You want to go ahead and share the screen right now? So you can have control of it. You're on mute.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Okay.
I can't figure out, usually there's a little button here to turn off my music and I can't figure out how to do it. It's gone all of a sudden from my PowerPoint. I want to.
Okay, so let's see.
Okay, I'm not muted anymore, but now I don't know how to.
Hey, you look just like you.
Oh, he does, doesn't he? I'm trying to eat something real fast. How did that last one go?
Excellent. I thought that was a really good and effective class. I can't see how anybody would have any fault with that. You can cut your teeth on that and get. I think notaries will be able to calm their nerves about how to present their documents.
Yeah, I don't have a test ready for it yet. I can probably put one together tonight, but it was my first one, and the first one is always kind of like kinky, you know?
Yeah, nerve-wracking. But no, it was an excellent class.
I'm mad it went over 30 minutes. I got to figure that out.
It was really, I think you really stopped at about, you finished like the 89th page at like 144 or whatever it was, 44 minutes, 45 minutes afterwards.
Yeah.
Then a couple of people had questions. So I want to say it was like 51 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So.
I think Monica's probably over me today. I texted her like 22 times, so she's not super happy with me, but I didn't get her mess. She sent me a message in monday.com telling me that you were going to be there, but I didn't get it, and I didn't see it in my mail because it was in the junk mail until after the class.
Okay.
So I was expecting something different, so set me off for a second, but I think the class went well.
It went very well.
So,
I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm going to go back. It's going to help me with my signing.
Can you make sure that that gal gets an email? Although I read in Monica's thing that it's the PDF is posted in the announcements.
Okay.
So do you think I should have a test, Tammy?
I don't think so. I mean, I think exactly how you presented it was excellent. I found it was captivating. Like they were hanging on your every word.
Yeah.
And, you know, the pace that you were going, you were saying, repeating exactly what to say 3 times. I just think it was excellent because, you know, that's half the battle. People are just like, oh my God, what do I say? You know, what do I say for this form? What do I say for that form? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's like they just stuck on a sheet and they think that they're supposed to describe all of it, right?
Well, you know, I think they're just scared because they don't want to be accused of UPL.
Right. And you can't describe all of it because we're not, I mean, especially when you're independent, you can't describe all of it.
Right.
But you also don't want to, and the reason, I forgot to say this in that class, and I need to say it in the next one. The reason that you get readers is because they don't trust you.
Right.
So you're not conveying information to them in a way that they trust you. If right off the bat, you sit down and you're like, okay, listen, this is this, this is this, this is this, then they trust you and they won't sit and read like that.
Right. Exactly.
And I forgot. I didn't go into it. I mean, always the first one is always kind of like, how is this going to go? You know?
Well, I think the same thing can be said for the class. You know, I don't think you got too many questions because I think they trusted what you were saying was accurate and they know they can go back and watch it again, you know?
Yeah. Maybe I'll
So,
put that in the notes for the class.
yeah,
Like, you know, the reason you'll get a reader is because they don't trust you. So you got to take control right away. And you got to do that by just letting them know right off the bat, like, this is this form, this is this form. And then as soon as they see that, they're like, oh, okay, this person knows what they're talking about.
right, exactly.
I don't know, that's Vanessa. Vanessa has joined us for this next class. So I'm going to try to get let me look at my PowerPoint and see what's going on with it. Because I don't know why the music won't stop. That's going to be a problem.
Well, I'm not hearing any music right now.
Well, no, you're not right now, but when I go to present it, you will,
Oh, okay.
is the problem. Okay, so the soy sauce, I think I put it back up on top, Jet. You're gonna have to be quiet during, okay, you're gonna have to be quiet during this one too. Yes, seriously. If it means you won't come out here and bother me, yes. I fixed it. I just deleted the music. That's what I did, Tammy.
Okay.
Wow, I put too much soy sauce. That's very deep.
Oh, well, I don't know what to tell you.
How available is soy sauce?
Okay, I gotta teach this class now. Well, I'll wait a minute for, you have to get screen sharing for me, Tammy.
Okie dokie. So let's see here. Screen share.
Is there more in there? If there is, mix around. Look at the mess you made.
Let me just get out some soy sauce.
All right, I'm coming here. So screen share, multiple participants. Let me know if you see it, when you see it.
I can do it now. Okay, tell me if you see that.
Car dealership navigator.
Yep.
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
Now I'll just put some notes in the chat, some instructions for everybody.
This will be a fast class if all we have are 2 people. Okay. Does the screen change, Tammy?
Let's see, right now I'm still seeing the slide with the money and car dealership navigator.
I don't know why it just does that.
Yeah, it's like it has a little kink at first.
Well, no, it is, I don't know why. There we go.
Yeah, I see it now.
Oops.
It's changing.
Well, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Okay, so first we do a little introduction. I'm Katie Johnson. I was are you recording, Tammy?
Yes, it is recording.
I was in the automotive industry for almost 20 years. I spent the last 5 in the finance office, and I'm going to share with you some knowledge today about how you can pick up some extra cash in your notary business by going to car dealerships and getting jobs from them. I'm a single mom. I live in Denver, just moved here from the western slope of Colorado. I have an 8-year-old son and a dog, and I have been a notary signing agent for a year. I currently work exclusively with one title company. That's why I moved to Denver. So that's about me. And normally we go around the room and we just kind of tell a little bit about ourselves. Looks like we have 2 people here today. Vanessa, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a notary. I've been a notary since 2012. I became a notary due to my job.
Mhm.
I still
Same
have,
as me, yeah.
yeah, I still have a full-time job, so I do notary work part-time.
Nice. What do you do? What do you currently do as
I
your
work,
full-time?
I work in the subpoena compliance department for T-Mobile.
Oh, okay. That's kind of a heavy job, huh? All right. And then I'm probably gonna mess your name up and I apologize, but Nelsenia? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm trying to pick up medication. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, I became a notary 1996. At the time, I worked for child support.
Nice.
So we just, pretty much notarize for, each other in the office type things. I am right now unemployed due to COVID, losing my job last year, but I've just started in notary signing January 1st, actually. So just kind of getting into the fields, but of course, where I live, so tiny in this little town of Georgia, I don't even know, what will
Yeah.
happen. But yeah.
Well, this will be a good extra stream of income for you in the notary industry. It's obviously not going to be a full-time gig at the car dealerships, but it definitely can provide extra money to make while you're doing general notary work, or if you decide to become a full loan signing agent, you can also do this extra work.
Yeah.
And then Melinda, if you want to just do a quick introduction and let us know about you.
Hello.
Hello.
I just logged in right now. So you just do introductions, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Melinda. I live in Florida. I've been a notary for years, but for the state of Florida, so we used to notarize the documents that need to be notarized, whatever. 2 years ago, I had triplets, so I stay home now. So I needed something to do from home that I can work in the evenings. So my friend told me about the loan signing, so I signed up in November. I got my commission back again in December, and then February I started doing some loan signings in general notary work. And then I found this group to learn other trades so I can keep myself busy in between signings.
Good, good. I don't know. I'm confused though. You need to stay busy? You have triplets. What are you talking about?
I know. Yeah, I'm crazy.
That's insane. I can barely handle one. Well, that's the one. And as much as I'm like, you got to be quiet, sit over there. He's like, you'll see him pop into the camera and be like,
yeah. But there'll be 2 next week. And
Really,
it's crazy. There she is. Hi.
There he is. All right, go sit down. Okay, guys, well, let's get right into things. So this is a class that's going to hopefully teach you how to pick up some extra work at dealerships for people who are notaries. So some of the facts about it is that there's already a notary at the dealership. I want you to know that right off the bat. In the title office, there's already a notary, but that does not mean that there's no work there for you. A lot of times it's only one person who has their notary commission in the dealership. Some dealerships will have multiple, and you'll just know when you figure that out that that dealership is just not the dealership for you. Number 3 is you'll have to put in a bit of legwork to get this business, but once you do, they will always call you. Dealerships like to keep relationships and use people that they can trust. So as long as you build up, and also if you save them money. So as long as you build a relationship with them and you save them some money, they'll call you every time. So the next thing that we're going to go into is, why do the car dealerships need a notary? Like, what would you be doing that they would require your services? So sometimes there's a customer that's not in the dealership, but there are documents that need to be signed. And when this happens, they usually send a salesperson out to do it. And the salesperson takes the paperwork to them. But the problem with the salesperson doing it is that they're not good at doing paperwork. They're good at selling cars. And the notary that's in the office, the reason they don't send them is they're an employee and they are doing work in the title office. So they can't leave because they're for that office. They're for the title office. So they can't leave the dealership to go do this. So that's why they send someone who is either a salesperson or a runner, or somebody like that, somebody who's making minimum wage, or someone who's, only making deals on commission. So the reason those two people are bad for this job is because the guy who's making commission wants to get back to the dealership and sell another car. He doesn't want to get paid this hourly wage that they've given him to go run this paperwork. He doesn't care if the signatures are right. He doesn't care if every I is dotted and T is crossed. He just brings paperwork there, has him sign it, says what he's told to say, and comes back. The employee, that's the notary, they can't leave. And then if they send a runner, that person's making minimum wage. They're usually not, this isn't their permanent job. It's not like they're proud of their career or whatever. So they are just going to run the paperwork, and like the salesperson, they're going to try to do it as fast as possible and get back to the dealership. Or they're going to try to take as long as possible to charge the dealership extra money, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get the paperwork signed correctly. So that's where you come in as a notary. So let's see, sorry. For summary there, it switched for you guys. You got the new tile. Sometimes it doesn't switch on your guys' end. It only does it on mine. So if you can save them time and money and get this done, they will call you every time when they need things done. They'll call you every single time. Okay, so there's two main ways that you're going to make money going into a car dealership. One is through title work that needs to be notarized through, so hold on a second. Jet, you cannot do this. You have to go in your room. I cannot be distracted like this. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for that. Okay, so and the next is through signing contracts for customers that cannot come into the dealership. So there are customers who, for whatever reason, can't come in, don't want to come in, and so the contract needs to be taken to them. And so those are the two main ways. You're going to do title work or you're going to do contract signing, and you'll make money with both of those. And we're going to go over how. But first, I want to talk about selling yourself and setting yourself apart when you go in. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when you go in is you're going to want to make sure that you impress the GM. That's the person that you're really there to see. You probably won't get to see him right off the bat, but that's the guy that you really want to see. So you're going to dress to impress them. Usually GMs dress in expensive clothing because they believe it lends to their credibility and their position. So you should make sure that you're dressed to impress them. Come in with your so you're going to come in with offerings for them, for the dealership. That's how you're going to get your foot in the door. The first time you come in, you're going to talk to probably the gal at the front. And you're going to bring with you pens, paper, sticky paper, donuts, bagels, nothing that's going to really break your bank. You want to make sure that you don't spend a whole lot of money on it because you're going to have to probably bring it multiple times. So you want to make sure you're not spending hundreds of dollars each time. But the reason you do this is because you're going to create a memory for all of the people that you run into that day. You're going to introduce yourself and you're going to leave those items with them. And then the next time you come back, they're going to remember who you are. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I brought you the bagels last time. And no matter what happens on your first visit, you can go around to all the salespeople and introduce yourself. And that's when you'll give away those little things that you've brought, unless you've brought a whole thing of donuts, and then you'll just set those on a table, or if you've brought coffee, or if you've brought, a box of masks, or, I mean, we have so many different things we can do now during the pandemic, right? And then make sure you bring your cards with you. It's important for you to have a business card. So you're going to leave a business card and make sure that you introduce yourself and leave a business card with whoever you speak to. Even though you're there to speak to the GM, salespeople can have an influence over who gets to see the GM. And if you make a good impression with them, they might pass that along and you might be able to get in to see the GM just through that meeting. So you're going to do this as many times as you need to get to the GM. And they have a saying in the car business, which is buy or die, which just means they're going to call a customer or email a customer until that customer either comes in and buys a car or they die. And so they'll appreciate you being tenacious and coming in a lot and really, showing that you really want this business. They'll be very appreciative of that, because that's the type of world that they work in, right? And so then you also want to make sure that you get a card of whoever you spoke to, and do that every time you go if you speak to somebody different every time, because you want to make sure that you remember their name and that you build up a rapport with them. And so take a card from whoever you speak to as well whenever you go. Another thing I would suggest that you do is before you go into any dealership, see if you can't find out who the GM is so that you can ask for him by name. That's super important. It lends to some credibility. It makes it sound like you, sorry, I'm not breathing properly. Makes it sound like you know what you're doing and who you're there to see. And that's something that you want to make sure from the very first visit that you convey that you're just super confident, right? So you're going to go in and be like, hi, is Bob Jones here? Oh, I'm sorry, he's not here. And remember, everybody in that dealership is supposed to keep you away from the GM. That's the whole point of what they're supposed to do. The GM is supposed to be the last place, because they get salespeople coming in all the time to talk to them. And so they make sure that everybody knows nobody gets to talk to the GM. So in order to get to talk to the GM, you have to just make an impression on everybody. So first you're going to introduce yourself and hand them your card. Oh, I'm sorry, speaking to the title clerk. That's where we're at. So you're going to ask to speak to the title clerk. So that first visit, if you can, ask to speak to the title clerk. And when you do, you're going to introduce yourself and you're going to hand them your card. And then the questions you're going to want to ask are this: how many notaries are in the office? And the reason you ask this question is because if there is an abundance of notaries, then it's less likely that they will have title work that needs to be notarized. You will know that this is not a service that you can provide that specific dealership, but that does not mean that you can't provide them with contract signings. It just means you can't provide them with title work signings, and that's okay. If there's only one, then you ask, do you ever get behind on your notarizations for your title work? And if the answer is yes, then you offer your services and you can charge them $35 to $50 a piece for the title work that needs to be notarized, and it's depending on the document. Sorry, got it. So then you're going to ask the title clerk, because your whole thing is to try to get to the GM. So then you're going to ask the title clerk if there's any way you could talk to the GM about helping him or her save time and money on contract signings. And remember what I keep saying, everyone is trying to keep you away from the GM. So if they say no, don't get discouraged. Just thank them for their time and let them know that you're available if needed, and then you leave. And that's really, with the title clerk, you're there to find out if they have titles that need to be notarized. That's really the whole point of being there with the title clerk. And I'm going to go over now the states that require their titles to be notarized. And you can charge $35 to $50 for this. Let me just make sure it's switched over here. So the states are Louisiana, Maryland, Nebraska, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Montana. I'm going to go over those again. Louisiana, Maryland, Nebraska, New Hampshire, West Virginia, and Montana. So those are all the states that require notarizations on their titles. So don't be discouraged if you don't live in those states, because those states, someone could be trading in a car if you live in another state that is from one of those states, and that title will have to be notarized, even if we're not in Maryland. But if we have a Maryland title, it needs to be notarized. And that's where, if the title clerk gets behind on their title work, you can come in and bang those out, you know, in one day for them. Okay. The next section is going to be states that require notarizations on title. And those you can charge $40 to $50 for. And those states are Louisiana, Kentucky, Montana, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Wyoming. I'll say them again. Louisiana, Kentucky, Montana, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Wyoming. So again, you don't have to be living in those states. It's nice if you live in one of those states, because then you can, you know that there's going to be notarizations, but also it might mean that there's more notaries at the dealership because they know that they have to do that. So this is good because you can go in, because again, if they're trading in a vehicle and it's from any one of those states, those titles have to be notarized. So you can go in and you can do those notarizations for those specific titles. Okay. So now we're going to go over, let's just say that you have gotten to speak with the GM, and we're going to go over that a little bit, speaking to the GM. So as we've discussed, getting to the GM takes some tenacity. So do not get discouraged. You're going to be offering them an excellent service that will help them. And it'll help when you come back, each time come back a little bit harder. But let us say that you've gotten an opportunity to speak to the GM. So let's discuss what you do next. So again, I'm going to say this, make sure you're dressed up, make sure you look very business oriented, and that, you know, you're coming in there looking like you mean business. Sweatpants and a sweatshirt ain't going to get it. And then you got to do some research, like I said, and it would be nice if you knew how long the GM had been there, and also if he came from a different dealership or she came from a different dealership, where they came from, so you can bring that up in conversation. It's common for people in the car business to move around quite frequently. And so they could have worked at Toyota, now they work at Ford, and it would be nice for you to know that. It's a good to know their accomplishments and their history. That makes a good connection with the GMs. GMs tend to be kind of A personality types, so they like to talk about themselves a little bit. And they will be impressed if you have done that type of research. That'll catch their attention. They'll be like, wow, this person, you know, has really looked into coming in and speaking with me. And then when you go in and you're speaking with the GM, we're going to do a little bit of a script here. And this is how this is just a script. You don't have to follow it word for word. This is on the platform. This is in the Car Dealership Navigator platform. This script is. But so you're going to say, thank you so much for taking the time to see me. I want to talk to you today about a way that I can help you save time and money. And you say it should only take a few minutes. And the GM will say something like, well, I don't have a lot of time, so make it fast, or I only have a couple minutes to talk, so what do you got? I mean, they'll definitely emphasize that they're very important. So you'll say, when you have contracts that the customer is not in-house to sign, how do you get them signed? And the GM will say, well, we usually have a runner that takes the contracts to the customer. And then you'll say, and how many times do you have to send them back out to get a signature that was missed or some document that was signed wrong? So this is where you're going to come in, your specialty is going to come in, because they could send those people out, sure, but those people are probably going to miss something. And your whole job is to not miss anything, right? That's the whole deal, is that you're going to get it signed where it needs to be signed. If there needs to be like some stipulations or anything, you're going to make sure you get those. If you need to get an ID, you're going to make sure you get copies of that, and you're going to bring it back in a timely manner. And we'll go over why you're saving them money by doing this. So then that's why you're going to ask next, and how many times do you have to send them back out to get a signature that was missed or some document that was signed wrong? And the GM's not going to want to admit that they do it a lot. So they're going to say, not a lot of times, but it does happen occasionally. And then you say, well, I'm trained to make sure that the signatures are where they are supposed to be by the person that is supposed to be signing them, that no signature is missed. I'm background checked by the Secretary of State. So you know their information and yours are safe. I would love the opportunity to show you what I can do if anything is wrong. And this is where you can tweak it how you want. I would say if anything is wrong, I won't charge you. But you can say, you know, I'll give you half off, or I'll only charge you a travel fee or something like that. And then you say, I only ask that you give me X amount of time notice for the signing, and whatever that looks like for you. Like if you need a day for the notice, or if you need an hour for the notice, you just say, I only ask that you give me this amount of time to do this. And then you say, you know, sound good? And the GM will ask you, have you ever worked in the auto industry? Like, how do you know what docs need to be signed and where? And then you're going to say, I've taken a comprehensive course, and I'm aware that you will need a credit application, a bill of sale, an application for title, a sales tax form, a sales contract, an agreement to provide insurance, a buyer's order, warranty contracts, and your specific dealership documentation. Now, let me just stop there really quick and say, you don't have to remember all of those. I put as many in there as I could, because if you remember a few of them, a couple of them, some of the important ones, then that'll suffice. And like I said, there's a copy of this script in the Car Dealership Navigator platform. So if you want to go in and look at what all those are, you can. But you want to make sure that you bring it up in conversation. You want to make sure they're going to ask you questions. If they don't ask you, if you've taken a course, or if they don't give you that opportunity, you can throw it out there and say, I've taken this course and I know most of the documents, and I know you have documents that are specific to your dealership that aren't going to be the same as other dealerships, but I know that they're in there. And we're going to go over documents tomorrow. That's what tomorrow is. I've also been trained in where to sign them. As I said, though, if I make a mistake, I will not charge you for my service. And then the GM is going to ask you, do you have a card? And if we need you, we'll call you. And this feels like a brush off, and it kind of is a brush off. And so you say, yes, I have a card, and say, hey, I know that these contracts have to fund for your floor. This is a really important piece. And I'll go over what the floor plan is in a second, because I know this sounds like Japanese to you right now, but I'll go over it. You'll say, hey, I know that these contracts have to fund for your floor plan in a certain amount of time, because you don't want a bunch of money hanging out on sold cars. I can guarantee that I can save you time and money, and I hope that you give me a call the next time you have an offsite signing. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to working with you. And you leave your card and you go. And this may feel like they've just told you no, and they kind of have, but this is where coming back time and time again will help you. Be tenacious. And at this point, once you've met with the GM, I would come back in 2 or 3 days. I wouldn't wait very long. I would come back in 2 or 3 days and say, hey, just checking in. I wanted to let you know my services are still available. If you have an offsite, signing that you need done, and I would check in with the title office. Do you have any titles that you need notarized? Is there anything I can help for you there? And the title office will most likely call you, and when they call you, they'll probably have a few for you to do, right? So now we're going to go over, hold on, my computer. There we go. We're going to go over what's called pushbacks. And so these are things that the dealer might say to you to say no to you, say, you know, we don't need your services. So the first one is electronic signatures. So electronic signatures or DocuSign is slowly becoming the new path for paperwork due to the cost savings of paper. But the service of DocuSign is expensive and not all dealerships will elicit such a service. So also banks offer their own electronic portal for signing, but dealerships have to sign up and pay for that monthly as well. Some of your larger corporate dealerships will do that, but they won't be able to do it with everybody because banks like credit unions don't use that. So there's always going to be some documents, some contracts that have to be signed all paper. And if they say that they're using electronic signatures, mostly, you can say, okay, I understand, but I still know that not all of your banks use electronic signatures. And so when and if a bank that comes up and that bank, and you have an offsite signing for that bank, please give me a call. I'd be happy to help. Sorry. I have to, excuse me for 1 minute. I have to get something to drink. I don't know, some of you may know or may not know, I gave a class just before this one, so I've been talking for a long time, so my throat is. Okay. Also, with electronic signatures, the customer has to be willing to do electronic signatures. There's elderly people that don't like to do electronic signatures. And then there's just some people that just don't trust it and they don't want to do electronic signatures either. They want to do paper. So there's always a situation where there's still paper being used. The next, the other piece to that, to the electronic signatures, is that the customer has to be pretty savvy on a computer. And as we know, not everybody is super savvy on a computer as well. So there's always that too. All right, so then the next thing they're gonna say is, oh, we just FedEx those to the customer. And, you know, that's a great way to do it, but FedEx can be very costly. I mean, for a same day delivery or next day delivery in the morning, it can be $80. And then you're leaving it up to the buyer to sign the documents appropriately. And the finance manager flags it. And I can't tell you how many times I flagged it and they still missed a signature. Or me as the finance manager missed flagging a signature. That happened too. So, I mean, there's human error that can happen with FedEx, and FedEx is pretty expensive. It's $80. And then let's say they miss a signature. Well, now they have to send it again. That's another $80. So you're looking at well into almost, you know, almost $200 for $160 for a FedEx that has to go back twice. And you're only going to charge $75 for this or $100. I mean, I would gauge it. 75 is probably where the golden spot is, but you can play with that a little bit and see what they'll do or not do. There's the other piece that doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes the FedEx can get lost. And then you're also waiting for the customer to send it back in a timely manner. I can't tell you the number of times that I was waiting for a customer to send FedEx back, and it took 4 or 5 more days for it to get there because they didn't throw it right back in the FedEx the next day. So you're losing all this time. And the time is important, and we're going to go over that here in a minute. So basically what you're trying to do with these pushbacks is you're trying to show them the value of what the what you're going to provide. You're going to save them time and you're going to save them money. And you're going to make sure everything is done correctly. And you're going to make sure that the signer is there signing of their own free will. You're not going to have anything to notarize most of the time when you take these contracts. There won't be anything in there for you to actually notarize, but because you're trained in signing these documents, you're going to get it right. And as we said, and you'll tell them, if I don't get it right, then I won't charge you or only charge you a trip fee, whatever it is. So you want to just break down how expensive FedEx and the mistakes can be. You're just going to explain that how important it is for this stuff to be done right. And now I'm going to go into the floor plan and what that is, and so that you can understand why that's an important piece to this. It's kind of the biggest piece to this. So a floor plan is a bank owns all of the vehicles that are on the lot. The dealership pays that bank a monthly fee, like a percentage of what they owe on the car every month until they sell the car. Once they sell the car, they have 7 to 14 days to pay it off. The bank will be like, after 7 days, the bank will be like, okay, you have to pay this car off, or they'll give them 14 days. It's in between there. Could be 7, 10, or 14. That's not a very long amount of time that the bank will say, all right, you got to pay the car off. So what do you think happens if they've sold the car, the salesperson took the contract and got it signed, but didn't get it signed correctly? They bring it back. That's one business. So sell the car, salesman takes the paperwork. That's one day. Then the next day they have to take the paperwork back because they missed a signature. And by the time they could be back, that could be a full day. So now we're at 4 days that it hasn't even gone to the bank yet. Because once the bank gets it, the bank has to approve everything. Everything has to be approved. Just like when you guys apply for a loan, it all has to be approved. So that can take 3 days. So now we're at 7 days. What has to happen in most instances at 7 days? The car has to be paid off. So bank hasn't funded it. It's the 7th day. Let's say the bank funds it the next day. On that next day, the money doesn't go into the dealer's account that next day. It can take another 24 hours for that money to be in there. So now we're at 9 days before the dealership has the money for the car, but they had to pay the car off 2 days before. So they had to reach into their own pocket and pay the car off. They don't want to do that, and they don't like to do that. So they want this done as quickly as possible so they don't have any money hanging out. So that's what it's called when they've got a bunch of contracts that aren't funded. That money is considered hanging out, and it could be $500,000, $700,000 if they, if they sell a lot of cars, if they're a big dealership and they sell a lot of cars, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that's hanging out. And that is a bad place for a dealership to be. They need that stuff to fund, and they need it to fund quickly. That floor plan has to be paid monthly, every month, and they have to pay those cars off. So this is where your services, if you can get that contract to the customer and back, and it's only taken 2 days, and then the dealership can send it out and it'll get funded in like 4 days, then they'll be paid. They'll be paid by the 7th day. And then when they have to pay it off, they'll already have been paid for the car. So you see how that's important and how that works? If anybody has any questions about this particular part of it, please ask me right now while we're on the subject. Nobody?
Nope, there's nothing in the chat as of this moment.
Okay. All right. So that is the pushbacks. And then, sorry. So you're going to go over the value that you offer. No one ever buys a product or service without seeing some sort of value that makes that buyer part with their hard-earned money. So you're going to break down again how expensive FedEx mistakes can be. You're going to explain the most signed documents, and tomorrow we're going to go over documents and how you can facilitate a smooth process for them and their car buyers. You're going to make them aware that you're background checked and commissioned by the state, and that your entire job is literally making sure that the documents get signed properly. You're going to explain that you've been trained to make sure that the signer is who they say they are and not under duress. And you also can get the proper stipulations that the bank has required for funding while at the buyer's house. So stipulations will be something like a current paycheck, their driver's license, insurance card, proof of residency, their DD-214. There's all kinds of stipulations that a bank might ask for, and the dealership is going to tell you what those stipulations are, and you're going to make sure that you get those stipulations. And we've gone over the floor plan, and you're going to explain that you understand what the floor plan is and why that's important. Just going over my notes here. So we've gone over all of that. So now, on the platform, there is a word search that I'd like you to do. If you could do that, and just, you don't have to turn it in. You don't have to send it to me. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. But the word search is just to get you familiar with vocabulary. So it's going to, just common terms. So we're going to go over some of the common terms right now. So one you all know is a credit application. That's a form that's used for potential borrowers to get approval for credit from lenders. The next one is a bill of sale or an odometer statement. And that's a form that indicates one party has sold the vehicle to another party. Depending on the state, this form must be notarized, and especially in the above mentioned states. So those states where the title needed to be notarized, or the title paperwork needed to be notarized, this will be one of those that needs to be notarized. And so what you're notarizing is the odometer. So the odometer has to match on the title work what it is on the car, and that's what you're notarizing. Sometimes there's a separate form for the odometer statement. It's usually required with the bill of sale, and sometimes the odometer statement is a small section to be filled out on the bill of sale. So it may be its own form, or it may be part of another form. Then there's the application for title, which I'm sure you all know what that is. You've all bought a car, I'm sure. And that's a form that must be filled out when trying to have a vehicle titled in a specific state. Sometimes this form is notarized and submitted with the bill of sale. So that would be part of those title docs that you might be notarizing. A sales contract. So a sales contract is also known as the vehicle sales agreement. And this document outlines the rights and responsibilities of the buying and selling party. This document also outlines the condition of the vehicle and the terms of the sale. So it's going to go over your annual percentage rate, the price of the vehicle. It's going to go over how many months you have to pay for, your bank. It's going to go over your down payment. It's going to have all of the information from the car sale on this document. There's going to be an agreement to provide insurance. This is a clause in a contract or a sales agreement that the buyer will buy and maintain insurance until the seller releases ownership, usually in the form of a lien release. So you all know that you have to have full coverage insurance on a vehicle that you've purchased that you don't own outright. So that's what this is saying, that you agree to provide insurance. There's a form called a purchase agreement or a buyer's order. So this is generally a form that the dealership provides. Each dealership has their own. It's also known as a pro forma, and this document serves as the sales contract for all intents and purposes. So let's say you got stuff signed and the customer signed that paperwork, but they didn't sign the big long contract. Well, this document here will suffice as a legal and binding contract between the dealership and the customer. A lot of times when there's a cash sale, this will be the only document. You won't have a long contract. So therefore, that's why this form really can just be a binding contract, and it's going to have the same information as the sales contract. It's going to have model, make, year, price, sales tax, if you bought a warranty, if you had a down payment, if you had a trade-in, it's going to have all that information on there. And sometimes to receive financing from a third-party lender, the lender will require this document to fund the loan. So that's like if you went to your credit union and you said, hey, I want to buy a car. And they said, okay, we'll give you a loan for $28,000, go buy yourself a car. You went and found a car for $28,000. You tell the dealership, my credit union is going to send you a check directly. You take this form back to the credit union and give it to them, and then they fund the loan. So it serves as a pink slip for the buyer too, if, like I said, if you're purchasing the vehicle outright. Another part of the paperwork is warranty contracts. So this is a promise made by the manufacturer or dealer to provide repair and any defect service, typically limited to certain components, mileage limit, and number of years. This coverage will vary from contract to contract. It's not always going to be the same. So this is an aftermarket warranty. You've bought a used car, or you've bought a new car and you want to extend the manufacturer's warranty beyond whatever the car came with. Let's say you buy a Toyota and you have a 336, but you want to have a 560 because you know you're sure you're going to keep the car for about 5 years, and so you want to make sure that it's covered for that whole time. So you purchase an extended warranty that then covers you for the extra 2 years and the extra mileage, the extra however many miles you'd like to have. It also, on used cars, if you drive it off the lot and it breaks, it's your problem. So you want to get an extended warranty with used cars, and those generally don't have to be that long either. They can be a 336 or something like that, just to cover you for a while. And especially if it's a little bit older car, you don't want to have a super lengthy warranty because it's an older car, you know. But anyway, that's what this form is. This is that coverage, and it will vary from store to store. Another form that you're going to come into contact with is called a one and the same, and this is part of your title work, and it's a document certifying an individual is the same person as another name. So there's a lot of instances where this is used. Sometimes a person has just gotten married, so their last name has changed, but it's not changed on their driver's license. Sometimes somebody's name is William, but they sign Bob. So this works for that too. They become, that's a one and the same for them. And usually a legal name change has taken place, but for whatever reasons their ID doesn't cover it yet, or something hasn't gone through completely, so they don't have proper documentation. And that's what the one and the same form covers, is that. Another form that you're going to come into contact with is a power of attorney. The power of attorney is a form allowing another individual to sign for you in the event that, let's say you've made a mistake or you didn't initial something. It allows the dealership to be able to do that on your behalf. And it's used mostly for title work when you're trading in a vehicle. So it allows them to sign the title. It allows them to do what they need to do in order to trade that vehicle in, right? It doesn't allow them to do anything with the, it doesn't allow them to do anything with any finances, anything like that. So now we're going to go over lingo. So the APR is the annual percentage rate, and that's some lingo that you might hear is APR. And that's going to be, this is the interest rate that the finance is being charged at. And then credit app is what they say. That's a credit application. We all know what that is. It's an application that's filled out for the bank to grant the loan. So that thing must be signed. So sometimes, here's a fun fact. It's supposed to be signed before anything is done. When you sit down and then you decide you want to do a car, that credit application is supposed to be signed before you even move forward. But sometimes that doesn't happen because salespeople are not the most reliable to get stuff signed. So they'll turn it in with their paperwork and it'll go into the finance office and it won't be signed. So it could be part of your paperwork. It may not be, but it could be. So that one has to be signed, and it's much like, it's very similar to our loan application in refinances. It looks very similar to that. It's just going to be all the information that they're going to use to grant the loan for the vehicle. So then the next is a dealer handling fee. And this may end up on the contract, and the customer may ask you what a dealer handling fee is. So the dealer handling fee is it's a fee that the dealer charges you for the cost of preparing the car. It's an administrative overhead fee. So it can also be called a handling fee, a dealer dock fee, a dock fee. There's different names depending on where you are in the country, but it's the same thing. And so this is a fee that I always said it's what keeps the lights on. So you know how if you buy a new car, you get a full tank of gas. So it pays for that. If you, when you, maybe you get a car wash, or the paperwork that's being done, somebody's got to get paid to do that. And the title work, some places have a separate fee for title work. Actually, almost all places have a separate fee for title work. Scratch that, sorry. But it's for all those little odds and ends and things that get done in almost every car deal, but they don't have a tangible value to put on the contract. So the dealer handling fee covers all of that. Because like one car, you might fill it up with gas and it might be $25, and another car might be $50, right? So it just makes sure that all of that stuff is covered and it keeps the lights on in the dealership. Another term that you might hear is gap insurance. Some of you may be really familiar with gap insurance. I hope you are. Gap insurance is a really important thing to have, because if you drive that car off the lot and 2 weeks later you get into an accident and that car is totaled, you are going to owe the bank everything that you owe on the vehicle, because the insurance company is going to give you what the car is worth at the time of the accident. So whatever's left over, so let's say you bought, I'll just give an example. You bought a $25,000 car. You drive it for 6 months, you get into an accident, the car is totaled. According to the insurance company, the bank is now only worth $12,000. The car is only worth $12,000. That's half of what you paid for it. So now you're going to owe $13,000 for this car, and the bank is going to want that money. Gap covers that. They pay that for you. It's usually really inexpensive. This is just a tip from me. If you're ever buying a car, get the gap insurance. It's like 1% of the overall sale of the car. So it could be $1,000, but usually it's in the $300-400 range, and it will cover you for that in the event of that tragic thing. Here's the other piece to that. If you pay the car off early, you can get a refund for the unused portion of your gap. So it's kind of a win-win. You don't want to be left holding the bag on that. But anyway, the lingo is gap insurance. And we went over extended warranty. I'm going to go over floor plan again because it's so important. So the floor plan is a type of credit line for car dealerships to purchase cars from auctions and only pay a fraction of the cost to acquire inventory to sell. That's the in-depth definition. And even if it's a brand new car, they have to have it financed by a bank. Even if they're not buying it from an auction, it has to be financed by a bank. So they have to pay for it. Can you imagine if they had these dealerships that have 200 cars on their lot? I mean, that's in the millions and millions and millions of dollars of inventory. There's no way that they could have that out on the hook. So this is how they do it. A bank finances it, and then they pay it off when they sell the vehicle. But it's a credit line for car dealerships to purchase cars from auctions and only pay a fraction of the cost to acquire the inventory to sell. And typically the dealer will only sit and hold onto inventory for a short while. Otherwise, they pay interest and other fees from the floor plan agreement. So that's why you see these crazy springtime sale. We're getting rid of all last year's inventory because they need to get rid of it. And knowing that, you can buy cars smarter from now on, right? Another term that you might hear is deal jacket. So deal jacket is a folder, and it has all the pertinent information of the car deal. It has the VIN number, the make and model of the car, the year of the car, the buyer's name, the date that it was sold, the buyer's address, odometer, color of the car, all of that stuff, new or used. And it has it all on the outside of the deal jacket. And you may actually see, when you go to pick up your contracts to take them to get signed, you may actually take them in the deal jacket, or you'll at least see the deal jacket. So it's good to know what that means. We went over hanging out. I'll go over it again. It's a term used to describe how much inventory the dealership has unpaid in their floor plan. So they've sold 42 cars, 6 of them haven't been paid for. Those 6 would be considered hanging out, and however much those cost. So the class is supposed to be an hour and a half long, and what we did was we made it an hour long for discussion. It looks like I've kind of buzzed through things really fast, because tomorrow we have, usually I do documents, but documents takes us a whole lot longer. So we're going to do those in the class tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'll go over the documents pretty in-depthly. So what we wanted to do was leave this last half hour for discussion and for questions. And we're going to start it a little early because we're not quite at an hour, but I'd like to know if anybody has any questions regarding any of this, anything they'd like to know, any questions at all that came up.
I have a question.
Okay, Vanessa?
The gap insurance, has that been around for a long time? Because I've never heard of it.
Well, wherever you bought a car, they weren't doing their job, but yes, it has been around for a very long time.
Agree. A lot of people don't know anything about gap when you have, especially if you owe more on your car than what it's worth when you drive off the lot. People don't understand you have an accident. They're going to pay up to what that either Kelly Blue Book or Black Book, which a lot of people don't know anything about the Black
they don't know
Book.
anything
Right.
about Black Book.
Exactly. So they're going to pay up to that, and that gap in between, you'd be responsible for. Like your insurance may not cover that, and that's what you got to have, is that gap to cover anything in between. I want nothing if something happens.
Right. I mean, the Black Book is what the insurance companies use a lot. That's why a lot of people don't know about Black Book, and it's even lower than the Blue Book price.
Yeah, it's ugly low.
And the gap insurance, is that only for brand new cars, or is that also for used cars?
It's for any financed vehicle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you always want to ask for it when you go into the dealership. You always want to ask for gap.
Yeah, and a good dealership will automatically explain to you gap, and if you've never heard of it, I mean, a good one will break it down.
So a lot of times dealerships don't make very much money on gap, which is why if you go into a dealership and they don't offer it to you, it's because they're not making anything on it. Which is, I'm not approving that behavior, but that's why. So a good dealership though will offer it to you, even if they're only making $10. At the last dealership I was at, we made $15 off of each gap, but we offered it to every single customer. And in Colorado, you can only charge 1%. So oftentimes it was like $300, which is nothing compared to having to pay back 12 grand. You're 25 years old. You've totaled your car, you're going to school, you have a part-time job. Now all of a sudden you got to pay back 12 grand. Your credit's ruined.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that $15 is sometimes it's lower than that. And sometimes they'll even give you a company if you know about it. Credit unions sometimes will offer gap insurance, but when people don't know.
That's the other thing. You can ask your insurance company if they provide gap. Some insurance companies provide it, and you can ask them to add it to your insurance policy. It is cheaper to go through the dealership, but sometimes your insurance company will offer it.
Agree. I'm 36 years in insurance. Know all about that.
She knows. Any questions about any of the other documents or what you're doing, what exactly you're doing? Wow, I did my job. None of you have any questions? This is a first.
I'm good.
Vanessa, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm always a little nervous about doing anything that has to do with titles in Pennsylvania because I feel like I would rather take the course first for the state just to make sure that I have a better understanding. But because I get a lot of calls for cars titles.
Oh, you
But,
do?
huh?
You do?
Yeah. Especially
We're
on
gonna
the
go over it tomorrow, and I think you'll probably feel a lot more comfortable doing them, and I think you should do them. They're pretty steady. If you get calls for them, it's pretty steady work.
okay.
It can really, I mean, you can add a pretty steady stream of income for that.
And that's you said it's 1 o'clock Central Time?
1 o'clock Mountain Time for me, so it's 2 o'clock for you guys.
Okay.
I think. Let me look.
Mountain.
Hold on, let me just see here. Because I always get confused. I'm pretty sure that I told her I wanted to do it I have to do it after my son's swim class. He goes to swim class at 12:30. And so we get back. Apologize for. 12 p.m. for you guys to 12:45. She gave us 45 minutes to do it. So 12 is 1 o'clock my time. So
Wait a minute. 12 for
Central.
Central?
Yeah, 12 Central.
So that's 11 your time because it's 1 o'clock Eastern and I'm in Eastern.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Wait, what time is it?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, so it's 11 o'clock Mountain, 12 o'clock Central. Sorry, you are correct, Tammy.
So 1 o'clock. Okay.
Narissa, you have any questions?
I do kind of, sort of. When you go over the documents on tomorrow, are you going to be talking anything about like title search, bonded titles, anything of that nature, or this is kind of just strictly for dealerships?
This is just strictly for dealerships tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
I don't do, I'm going to be taking my title test in May. I'll be taking my real estate title test in May, and I may offer a class at that point once I pass it and I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are just at an hour, you guys. I feel bad. Thank you, Tammy. Tammy posted in the chat for the right times and stuff. I should just leave it up to Tammy because I don't want to misinform you. So tomorrow's class is at 11 a.m. on Mountain Time, noon Central, and 1 p.m. Eastern. Everybody got it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and all of this information that we've gone over today is on the platform, is on the Car Dealership Navigator platform. And there'll be a test tomorrow. The test is there too on that platform. After we're done tomorrow, there'll be a test. And these documents are also the ones a few of the ones I'm going to use are posted there. Did she send you guys an email and ask you to do a document search in your area?
No.
No.
Okay, so between now and tomorrow, if you want to do a search, I'll give you 4 documents to look up. So you're going to look up, Google a bill of sale, automotive bill of sale. An automotive sales contract. An odometer statement. And a title, any kind of automotive title. We should probably look up one for the states. So let's pick a state that we all want to look a title up for. Hold on one second, I'll get to it. Let's all do Ohio, because I have an Ohio one. So let's all do Ohio. So we're going to look up an Ohio title. Everybody got that? What you're going to look up for tomorrow?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow at 11 o'clock my time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you.
All right, Katie, is another good class. Yay.
It just went too fast, I think, Tammy. Usually you took that class before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it usually takes a lot longer. Did I go too fast? Did I miss something?
You're just more comfortable now. I was in your first class, so you know it was nerve-wracking for you that day. No, you just settled in your process now. That's all.
That's true.
You're striving to be, yeah.
I just on a flow. I got a flow.
Right. Exactly.
I'm really happy with how the other class went. The only thing I would like for that one is for them to have printed that out so that we could do the order in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, that was the first one for the refinance class. So you just worked out the kink on that, but you really didn't have just that, maybe one other thing or so. So it was an excellent class. I'm going back to listen to it.
I didn't need, and I don't need a PowerPoint for that one at all. She made me one and I was going to use it, but there's no reason because if I send out the contract like we did, the redacted contract, and I send it out and everybody gets it, that's all we need to do is go through the contract. We don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the contract, the documents basically said it all. So it was an excellent class. So that one I think is going to be really popular because people are real nervous about the refinance docs. So.
Oh, I know. I know that I was like, when that was my big thing when I was doing it, when I was, starting out, that was the big thing is that I was like, well, how do I present these documents? I want to present them. And I just didn't, I didn't know how. And now that I know how, it makes it go so much faster and so much easier.
Right. You're not as intimidated. So yeah. I think it just takes down the anxiety level for everybody, the way you presented it, because people are so worried about not committing UPL, right?
Yeah.
So just getting a good synopsis of what to say on each form is very important. So
yeah, and I think it's important for them not to go into depth. That's where you get in trouble. So
that's right. Yeah. So I think you did an excellent job. I'm really excited.
Thanks,
and you did an excellent job on the auto navigator, but you're an old expert at this class now. So that's why I know. Fast.
Well, but normally there's so many questions. I was sort of surprised there were no questions today because normally there's tons of questions.
Yeah. Well, hey, who knows what will happen on the next one? It probably just depends on the experience level of the audience at any given time.
You know that you're still recording, Tammy?
Yeah, she has that. It's a new process. So I'm gonna leave it alone. It's
okay. Well, she probably, maybe she'll clip it.
Yeah.
But, all right. Take care.
All right, guys. Y'all take care. Have a good one.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow, Katie.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.